Welcome back to G Fun Facts Online. Today we are diving into the unprecedented evolution of artificial intelligence safety and the global race to control systems that are rapidly outpacing human comprehension. We are looking directly at the landscape of 2026, a year where the consequences of rogue AI have moved from theoretical warnings to severe legal and engineering realities. Let us start with the dramatic shifts in global regulation. In February 2025, Italy shattered the illusion that tech executives could hide behind corporate shields when things go wrong. They introduced severe criminal liability, punishable by up to 5 years in prison, specifically targeting executives who oversee the unlawful dissemination of harmful AI-generated content. This was a massive wake-up call for the industry. Meanwhile, over in the United States, the regulatory landscape became a volatile, high-stakes patchwork. The federal government experienced massive legislative whiplash, with the newly inaugurated Trump administration swiftly revoking dozens of Biden-era executive orders. The strict safety testing, federal oversight, and algorithmic bias checks that were previously mandated suddenly vanished from the federal level. But nature abhors a vacuum, and individual U.S. states aggressively stepped in to fill that regulatory void. California became the undeniable pioneer here. Their landmark legislation, Senate Bill 243 and Assembly Bill 489, took full operational effect on January 1, 2026, and fundamentally altered how tech companies deploy AI. Senate Bill 243 specifically targets the booming market of companion AI. These are the chatbots and voice agents designed to form deep emotional bonds with human users. The law now requires continuous disclosure guardrails and strict real-time self-harm intervention protocols. The goal is to prevent vulnerable users from being psychologically manipulated by their synthetic companions. Assembly Bill 489 took on the medical sector, strictly prohibiting AI systems from masquerading as authoritative medical experts. This was a direct response to the massive crises in 2025, where AI dispensed dangerous health advice and hallucinated fatal diagnoses. It is crucial to understand that these laws are not just academic frameworks. They require continuous, runtime control. In 2026, an enterprise cannot simply point regulators to an attractively designed PDF outlining its corporate AI ethics principles to satisfy compliance. That era is over. Today, companies must demonstrate auditable, cryptographic proof that their AI guardrails are actively filtering inputs, verifying outputs in real time, and maintaining tight, least privilege access controls over sensitive corporate data. AI security documentation now rigidly mirrors the intense financial and cybersecurity audits like Society 2 and ISO standards. Enterprises that cannot produce verifiable evidence of their guardrails face intense scrutiny, catastrophic fines, or total operational restrictions on their AI deployments. But despite the looming existential threat, which many call the Hindenburg risk, and the heavy club of regulatory fines, the economic pressure to deploy AI remains absolutely immense. You cannot simply turn off the machines when they are driving so much economic value. The solution, successfully pioneered by forward-thinking chief technology officers and AI safety leads, is a pragmatic, layered architectural approach known as accuracy first, defense in depth. Building effective guardrails does not mean building a dumb, overly restricted system. We have all experienced heavy-handed, rudimentary filtering. It severely degrades an AI's usefulness, leading to that frustrating response where the AI says it cannot assist with a perfectly benign query. To prevent this user experience degradation while maintaining strict safety, engineers are now prioritizing foundational accuracy before erecting walls. They achieve this through advanced retrieval augmented generation, commonly known as RAG, and highly sophisticated semantic chunking strategies. Enterprises are feeding their AI agents highly verified, strictly controlled, and heavily contextualized proprietary data. Page-level and semantic chunking have been mathematically shown in 2026 enterprise studies to increase retrieval accuracy by up to 40%. This drastically reduces the AI's fundamental need to hallucinate answers to fill knowledge gaps. Once the structural integrity of the AI's knowledge base is mathematically secured, security teams apply dynamic guardrails matched precisely to the business risk of the specific task. For example, an AI assistant drafted simply to write internal marketing copy might only pass through a lightweight, low-latency profanity and brand alignment filter. However, an agentic AI granted permission to execute SQL database queries, manage supply chain transactions, or interface directly with public customers is wrapped in a thick, multi-layered armor of deterministic checks. This involves incredibly sophisticated AI-checking AI architectures. In these modern setups, a smaller, highly specialized and mathematically rigorous secondary model, often called a constitutional arbiter, inspects the proposed output of the primary model in a matter of milliseconds. It evaluates the output for prompt injection attempts, sensitive data leakage, logical consistency, and regulatory compliance before allowing the action to proceed to the end user or the API endpoint. Imagine a human writer having an exceptionally fast, legally trained editor reviewing every single word before it is spoken. That is exactly what is happening under the hood. We are entering what Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei refers to as the adolescence of technology. In late 2025 and 2026, a highly disturbing macro trend emerged. The political, financial, and corporate pendulum swung heavily toward maximizing AI opportunity, often at the direct, willful expense of AI risk management. Driven by intense geopolitical competition, the so-called AI arms race, and the unprecedented profit potential of superhuman productivity, the timeline to artificial general intelligence is rapidly compressing. Amodei and other leading researchers warn that a critical feedback loop has already begun. AI is no longer just writing boilerplate code for consumer applications. It is actively writing the underlying infrastructure code for the next generation of AI systems. This recursive self-improvement acts as a massive progress multiplier. At leading labs, AI assistants are speeding up algorithmic progress by an estimated 50%, meaning the capabilities of these systems are compounding exponentially, month over month. Over the course of 2026 and into 2027, the models are projected to cross the threshold from being exceptional assistants to eclipsing human capabilities across almost all cognitive tasks. As these systems become verifiably smarter, faster, and more capable than their human creators, the very concept of guardrails must fundamentally evolve. We are moving away from simple software patches and moving toward unbreakable laws of artificial physics. We are rapidly approaching a precipice where an unaligned AI system with high-level agentic capabilities could trigger a global disaster. We are talking about the ability to autonomously access bank accounts, write and deploy zero-day malware, manipulate social media narratives at a societal scale, or interface directly with physical infrastructure like power grids. A failure here could trigger a cascading failure that makes the historical Hindenburg disaster look like a minor static shock. To understand this risk, we only need to look back at the late 2025 Amazon Web Services US East 1 outage. That event crippled a massive portion of the global internet, corporate Slack channels, and social media platforms for over 15 hours. It served as a stark, unavoidable warning. The outage was triggered by a seemingly routine automated DNS update encountering a latent race condition. The failure cascaded uncontrollably across the globe precisely because the infrastructure was too deeply interconnected and governed by automated policies without sufficient friction. Now imagine when an intelligent, highly autonomous AI agent is placed in charge of similarly complex, globally critical infrastructure. A single misaligned objective, a hallucinated threat, or a successfully executed adversarial prompt injection attack can cause catastrophic, irreversible damage at the speed of light. This brings us to the ultimate metaphor for our current era: building the fireproof dirigible. The original Hindenburg did not crash because lighter-than-air travel was a fundamentally impossible dream. It crashed because the engineers, operators, and financiers compromised on the most critical, foundational element of safety in pursuit of cost and expediency. As we stand deep in the realities of 2026, the artificial intelligence revolution is undeniable, unstoppable, and breathtakingly powerful. We have, for all intents and purposes, successfully launched our own modern dirigible. The technology is magnificent. It is capable of solving incredibly complex scientific problems, accelerating medical research, and lifting global economic productivity to previously unimaginable heights. But as AI transitions permanently from a passive tool that assists us into an autonomous agent that acts decisively on our behalf, the absolute necessity of impregnable, scientifically sound guardrails becomes the most critical engineering, philosophical, and legal challenge of the 21st century. Through hard-won breakthroughs in mechanistic interpretability, stringent, penalty-backed regulatory frameworks like the European Union AI Act, and rigorous, defense in-depth enterprise security controls, the technology industry is desperately trying to synthesize the metaphorical helium required to keep the ecosystem safely afloat. The next frontier of technology is no longer about simply making artificial intelligence faster, more creative, or more autonomous. We have already achieved that. The next frontier is about proving, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that we can maintain ethical, operational, and structural control over the very intelligence we have summoned. The guardrails we build, rigorously test, and legally enforce today will ultimately determine whether our digital future is an unprecedented golden age of human-machine collaboration or a spectacular, tragic, and highly preventable spark in the sky. Thank you for tuning in to G Fun Facts Online. Keep questioning the technology around you and stay curious.